You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it. A man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Now I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy. But when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it.
Welcome, everyone. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here tonight. All right, everyone, we got a special guest. His name is MJ of WTF For Real. I'm going to leave the link in the description. Hey, MJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Linda B. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Now, you know what we're going to talk about. There's this clip of the actor Terrence Howard, and he is on the PBD Podcast talking about things that actors got to do if they want to make it to a certain plateau in their field. And, you know, that is just crazy because it reminds me of Cat Williams when he was talking to Shannon Sharp on the show Club Shay Shay. And so, I mean, and nobody ever came back and said that Cat Williams was lying, you know, unless I missed it. And
no, they didn't.
I don't think anyone has come out against Terrence Howard either. So this conversation did not start anywhere near where Terrence Howard went. He was talking about other actors he's worked with, like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. He started talking about the accolades he's received. He started talking about the actor Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Now, Heath Ledger and Philip Seymour Hoffman have died. And the host was like, wait a minute, those guys are already gone. And he said, yeah, Hollywood, sometimes you can have a short life because of different things that you've had to do to get to where you're trying to go. And I just wanted to give you a little background, but his conversation just went all to the left. It just went kind of crazy. But I'm going to share this clip with you and we're just going to talk about it. We are just really going to talk about it.
You know, there's a short life in
why do you think that is? What the creative side is?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much shit to try and deal with life. You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. You know, who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what Heath had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. You know, but when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it. A man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Now I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things, when you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, you know, one of the things you're seeing, you went to a whole different place
Sorry.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process, I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal. And what we were brought in here as men, we produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason.
I'll just stop it right there. So that is what he was saying right there. I'm going to cut that clip a little short. I'm going to edit this, but so that was a lot. What are your words? I mean, we already knew this, but just to hear another person say it, it is more and more people really revealing, in my opinion, the evils of wanting to be famous so bad that you give up certain things. And in the end, it's like you're selling your soul. So what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. Like even when before the clip, when Cat Williams had that conversation on Club Shay Shay, it was like when I saw his interview last year, I felt like, wow, the curtain is really going to get pulled back. And more, little by little, we're starting to see that where folks are being a little bit more bold to and showing a lot of courage, because I feel like in that industry, you got to be really courageous to really even go there just a little bit. And Terrence Howard is one of those dudes that and I saw the complete program on PBD. And even some of the things he spoke about that led into this. You know, one thing about Terrence Howard, I've never seen him in any role where he compromised integrity and did any type of, gay scene.
He says it in this clip. He's a little bit. I don't want to make it too long, but
it's cool.
Yeah, he said that he's never done that. He's like, I'm not doing it. And he's done well as an actor without doing it. You know what I mean? So we know who he is. He was on Empire. He's done a number of movies. You just gotta be satisfied with so much, because to get to the high level, we don't know what those people had to do. He talked about men and women.
Yeah. When he said that, the first thought I had, the first actress that came to mind was Halle Berry.
Me too. Oh my gosh, you too.
Yeah, the first actress that came to mind was Halle Berry.
I'm telling you, the first person that came to my mind was Halle Berry. Like, what did she do to get there? Because and she's beautiful. I mean, especially when she was younger, she's still beautiful. But I just, for some reason, I thought of her, and I don't know if I think she's the best actress out there in the world. I don't think she's. I mean, I can think of a lot of them that to me are a lot better, but they're not as known, but they're maybe not as physically appealing. But I can think of Amanjanu Ellis. I don't know if you know her, Kimberly Elise. Those women are strong actresses. It's strong. Right. And they're a little bit younger than she is, but they are strong actresses, but they don't look like that. And we don't know what she had to do. So.
Yeah, I mean, to trade off, your manhood, so to speak, for anything, to me is atrocious. And I completely agree with him that, as a man, that's the card that we just absolutely never give up. But when you relate it back to Hollywood, when he's talking about the ones that traded that off for even higher heights in the industry, I start to think about, Robin Williams. I think
Mhm.
about even Martin Lawrence, and I
Mhm.
think about Tom Hanks, because you remember back in the 80s, Tom Hanks was in Bosom Buddies, and he wore,
Mhm.
he was the dressing, switching it up for, for that show, and that goes to think, I say that to say I've seen it a lot,
Mhm.
and I always question, anytime I see any type of straight actor, I would say, play
Mhm.
a gay role
Mhm.
or wear a dress, because The Rock's done it, John Cena. I mean, all types of folks have done it. And I always wonder, how much did they pay you to do that? Because I don't know if
Mhm.
you could pay me enough to do that.
My husband won't even hold my purse for a minute. If I need him to hold it, I'm like, honey, hold this for me. He said, I'm not holding it.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I've
gotta
been
put it
there.
on the ground.
Yeah, or try to hold it in such a way where it's like, you
Because
want
I
to
was
make it look
doing
awkward.
something recently, and I said, hold this for me. He was like, he won't do it. I won't do it.
Right,
It's got to
right.
be an emergency situation. He won't do
Absolutely.
it. But yeah, I don't know why I thought me and you thought Halle Berry too, and they seem to be unhappy. And you know that Heath Ledger and Philip Seymour Hoffman died young.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Heath Ledger was in Brokeback Mountain,
Hmm.
and
And
I
it
knew what
took
that
me
was
a
about. I wasn't trying to go see it, so.
so I saw that movie after it had been out for like 10 years.
Hmm.
And it was a hard, I'm not gonna lie, it was like a really hard movie to watch because
Hmm.
I just couldn't understand it. But yeah, that was a tough watch. And I don't know if I've had a movie that I've watched that was that tough to watch before. And
Hmm.
I'm not, I don't, I don't want to misconstrue what I'm saying, because I don't consider myself to be homophobic.
Hmm.
I do have family in that community, and I fully support, them because I love them.
Hmm.
But in terms of actually watching it, I believe, listen, if that's what you want to do, then all right. But I don't want to be
I mean, I
subjected to
can't.
it.
I know I wouldn't be able to. I know I
It
wouldn't be
was
able.
tough.
Yeah, yes, I can imagine. But mentioning the names like Justin Bieber, he brought up Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber was with Diddy when he was little, like a kid. He wasn't 18. He was not of age.
Oh
Um,
no.
there's
Yeah.
pictures of Justin Bieber like a baby face. I mean, he's a child.
Yeah.
And and he mentioned, the host of PBD said Justin Bieber is dealing with that. He's married though to a woman.
Yeah. And he has a child.
Hmm.
Um, and according to some of the things that I've been seeing recently, he's moved away from the business,
Hmm.
to a certain degree.
Hmm.
I think that's a good move for him, and apparently he's been dealing with a lot of things. And that's one thing that I say, and further into that Terrence Howard interview where he talked about, folks that have done that and the therapy that they need to undergo
Hmm.
to recover. But I do agree, once you give that card up, there's no going back from that.
And see, I knew what he meant when he say a man gives it, he doesn't
Yeah.
take it. And then I was like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah. Well, PBD was like, wait a minute, you think you saying what I think you're saying? And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. He
he
said,
said,
I'm
I
saying
said what
what
I
I'm
said.
saying. I'm like, oh Lord. And
Yeah.
Cat Williams, he was like, I'm a virgin down there.
Yeah,
Cat was like, no. So you can
absolutely.
make it. I remember when Omar Gooding, he is the brother of Cuba Gooding Jr.
Mhm.
He said that that goes on, and he said he's not doing it. And he said, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Yeah,
You gotta do nothing.
but I guess it seems that they feel like it's necessary in order to get the role, in order to get the accolades that you want to get, or to go to even further heights. You have to bend the knee, so to speak,
Mhm.
to that type of behavior. I know that he said he doesn't do scenes where he's playing a gay person. He doesn't do a scene where he's kissing a man.
Mhm.
And it's funny enough. I remember, if I remember correctly, I don't even think Denzel does that. Although someone told me in the last movie that he was in Gladiator, that he kissed a man. But I
Yeah, he
I
did
watched I watched
out. Mhm.
yeah, I watched the movie, but maybe they deleted the scene because I
They
didn't see
deleted
it.
the scene. They deleted
Yeah,
it.
they had
I
to because
talked
I didn't
about
see it.
this. Yeah, I talked about this with Wise. And he said they probably made him come out and say that. You know what I mean? Because I was like, why mention it if it's cut out, you know?
Right.
But
Right. Because
they could have made him say it, because one thing about it, Hollywood, you know, I don't want to say what I was going to say, but Hollywood, they make you do things or make you go so far if you want to be a certain plateau. And I just can't imagine people being really happy. I just can't imagine them being at peace, you know, truly. And it maybe have gotten to the point where they're reprobate. I don't know. Well, it doesn't bother them. You know, who knows? They seem like they're okay, but then a lot of times you hear about them committing suicide. You find out that they've got drug addictions. It's the same thing in the music industry. You know, with the P. Diddy parties. He brought up the P. Diddy parties. And one thing that he brought up, and you saw the whole thing, was that P. Diddy reached out to Terrence Howard.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
Talking about some acting. He wanted him to help him with acting or something. And then when he would get there, when Terrence Howard would get there, P. Diddy would just be looking at him. And then he just didn't understand what was going on. And another time his assistant came and said, he wants to see you again next week. He was like, for what? His assistant said, I think he wants to F you.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, all communication was blocked after that. It was cut off. So yeah, all the P. parties and things like that. You know, J-Lo was there, some other folks were there. Allegedly TD Jakes was there.
And you know, the thing is, when people start coming out and giving all of the, you know, all of what they, you know, all of the tea, right? They give out all the details on these things, and name drop on who was there and all that stuff. I believe them because they don't have anything to actually gain. So when someone comes out and they make a statement, you know, the first thought I have is, what are they getting out of saying that? And
they're not going to get anything good in a way, because they might get backlash, you know, blackballed or whatever. So yeah, I tend to believe them also. And then when you see no one is coming out and saying anything against it, you know, they know it's true, but they just didn't have the guts to say it, or maybe they bent the knee. Because for a long time, because I don't know if you know this, but I used to want to be an actress, and I went to New York to get training with the intent of going to Hollywood at one point, but I got saved before that could happen. Right. So God spared me, and many years later, I find out, oh, that's what they up to. I had heard of the casting couch. I had heard of it, but I don't know. I don't know if I just believed it fully. But now you hear about this stuff, you're glad you are not in that space. You know, if you want to do anything, it's best to be independent, just to go another way, so you don't have to, you know, give up your soul for something so temporary.
Yeah. The handful of people that I know that's been in the industry, whether it's music or acting, they've dealt with some sort of substance abuse, pretty, you know, pretty badly. I mean, they're better now, but you know, just coming across those things, you know, even without having to ask the questions on, you know, what happened and why did you do it, you automatically know based on the behavior and you know, just some of the things you kind of pick up. So it's not surprising that he said the things he said. And I don't know if anybody was surprised by it either. Like if anyone was shocked by that interview and the things that he said, I would say you're just not paying attention.
Just not paying attention. And I still am thinking about Halle Berry because I used to want to be her, you know, but then because I said, oh, she's so beautiful. She's in all these movies. But then it's like, wait a minute, all her relationships are not working out.
None of them.
I mean, and then I know somebody in my family, he's married into the family, and he said, she's crazy. Wow. I don't know if she's crazy, but I knew at one point she was honest when she said she tried to end her life. She did. She was in a garage, closed garage with the car on, I think with her pets, if I'm not mistaken. But then she was with the car on, probably crying. And I think she thought about her mother would be sad to know that her daughter was ended her life. And that's what made her not go through with it.
Yeah, yeah. When I was a teenager, Halle Berry was like my Hollywood crush. You
Mhm,
know, that's back when Risky Business was out. And I mean,
mhm,
it
mhm,
it was it was just those things. And I may have gotten the movie incorrect, but I think it's the right one.
mhm.
And I remember like some of the relationships she was in with Wesley Snipes and the baseball player David Justice, and
David
how
Justice.
they were physically abusive. And I used to hear those stories, and I'm like, how in the world is she?
Now, was David Justice physically abusive? I knew
Mhm.
Wesley was. Was he as
Yeah.
well? Because
Mhm.
he's David Justice is in a he's married and he's been married a long time.
Yeah, yeah, he's married. I mean, they were together because he used to play for the Braves,
Mhm.
and I remember that because that's I grew up in Virginia, and for some reason, all the baseball games that we didn't have a baseball team, so they would
Mhm.
play the Atlanta Braves every time baseball was on. So it was like, why do we got to watch the Braves? But then it's just one of those things, and I think a lot of it is connected.
Mhm.
There's trade-offs to it. There's like, yeah, you might do some really you know really terrible things in order to climb the ladder in
Mhm.
Hollywood, but
Mhm.
there's also some of the other side of the coin. You're gonna have to deal with the bad too.
Absolutely.
And
I totally agree. You're gonna have to deal with that bad. And
yeah.
they also want you to go along. If you're not that way, if you don't belong to the alphabet community yourself, they still want you to be an activist for it or someone who is for it. You know what I mean? Who encourages it. They want you to do that because Halle Berry did a film called Bruised. It came out on Netflix, I think it was, when she was
Mm.
playing a boxer. I don't know. I saw that movie, and in that scene, there's a scene, and I saw it coming. I said, "Oh Lord,
Yeah,
this."
I started that movie. I never finished it.
Yeah, I could see this man like looking woman, but I could tell it was a woman, and they ended up in a relationship. But I had to fast forward.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
remember that.
I said, let me get past this part. I had to fast forward. I can't. So yeah. So there it's like you have to be okay with it, or they just won't let you, mm-mm. Even people
Yeah.
that used to say something against it over the years, they had to come out with an apology or something like that. You had to come out with an apology, or else, it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
dictatorship. You can't think for yourself. You can't stand up for your Christian beliefs. I mean, I think it's just totally antichrist in my mind. But to hear Terrence Howard, another person, say that, to give up their man card,
Yeah.
and they're using drugs to try to get it out of their mind,
Yeah.
to
That's the only
try.
way to cope.
Yeah, yeah, and they need the Lord. They need Jesus. That's the best way to deal with that. But I just find it so horrific. I'm so glad that to know that someone like Terrence Howard, he's been in a number of movies, and I guess he's still not the AA list, but he's pretty up there to me in my mind. And
Yeah.
and he didn't do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's part of why he's not considered an A-lister, 'cause
Hmm.
I don't believe they consider him an A-lister, although he's
Yeah, they
been
don't.
in many movies, and most of the movies he's been in, he hasn't made a lot of money,
Hmm.
but I think that's a consequence of him not really going in the direction that they want him to go,
Hmm.
and that's the trade-off, like, "Okay, well, if you're not gonna do it, you're just not gonna get high praise, and you're not gonna get the same amount of money."
Hmm.
Even with the whole thing with Robert Downey Jr., like I've looked into a lot of things about that whole story and how Disney dealt with that situation with those movies.
Hmm.
And that was it's absolutely I don't even know the right word to even describe that, but I think it is a consequence of the fact that he won't do the things that not necessarily with Disney per se, but I think the industry as a whole
Hmm.
will put you in a box and you can't get out of it.
Right.
And, but I do hope at least that by things like the things that he's come out and said, the things that even Cat Williams has said, and although it's been some time since that interview, that more people will come out and speak against it and put it out there, because I think the more light that you shine on it, the more chance that you have to kind of find some sort of resolution, um,
I
to
just
that
think
behavior.
I just think it's so horrible to know that a young person this is their dream to do something, and they take advantage of their desire, their youthfulness, their naivete to, make them want to do this. Like, if you want this, you said you want it. You said you want it. Oh, look, we've got someone else joining us. Hello, Derek.
I'm sorry I'm late.
That's all right. You are so fine. You're just fine. We're talking about, and I guess you saw it in the group, we are talking about the PBD podcast with Terrence Howard. Did you see that show, that episode?
I saw just a little bit of it. It was longer than I had time for, but I did watch some of it in preparation. So
yeah, so the part was at the end and he was talking about how people in Hollywood and in the music industry, Terrence Howard was saying how they have to give up their man card. They have to take it, and a man is supposed to give it. And so the PBD host was like, are you saying what I think you're saying? He was like, I'm saying what I'm saying. The P. Diddy parties and all of that. And two actors he mentioned, Heath Ledger and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who died early. They were dealing with things, doing things, and they're getting on drugs to try and get it out of their mind, what they had to do to get to where they wanted to be professionally. And it was just to hear somebody else talk about it. It was just horrible. I mean, and me and MJ were like, the first person we thought of was Halle Berry. Like, what does she have to do?
yeah.
For some reason, that was the actress that came to my mind.
Well, and then I get to thinking, it's like people started tripping out on Michael Jackson and all the accusations that none of it really came to fruition. It was all accusations. None of it was proven. I mean, we may or never actually know what could have happened, but everyone was flipping out over what that could have been, like even just the Macaulay Culkin part of it. But now that it's all being uncovered, what is really going on there, it's like that was just the beginning of what real life is for some of the people that are living there.
And I got to say, I don't believe that Michael Jackson did that. I don't know if I'm one of the few, but
I don't believe it either.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that. I think
did.
he made somebody mad in the industry and they tried to hurt him. I don't believe that, not one bit. They can go kick rocks. That man didn't do that.
If he did anything, they would have found out. It's what I believe. And just because they didn't find anything, to me, I don't think so.
Yeah, but Derek makes a great point, though. If you really turn the hands of time backwards and really look at how out of proportion, for even, I mean, it wasn't really that long ago. If if you really break it down, for them to just have allegations, and now we have in current day, all the evidence and all the witnesses and all the things that are coming out, and still nothing gets done. It's still an attempt to brush it under the rug as quickly as possible. And it just drives me crazy. But that just goes to speak to the times that we're in.
Well, so someone posted on one of the social medias, one of those just black background, white letters. What was true? What is no longer true today that was when you were in high school? And the first thing that popped in mind was news. Anything in the media had to have multiple sources before it was produced.
Oh, yep.
And now it's social media is like, man, first one, you can ask for an apology or retraction later. Just put it out there and see what sticks.
Wow. Yeah, I try to, I always say allegedly. I wear that word out. I am trying to protect myself. Look, this is what they got out there. I'm not saying it's true. I say that so much because I don't need any problems. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we were talking about. And I just find it, and I was talking about how horrible it is for a young person who wants to be an actor or in music to be faced with this decision. Like, do I want to do this horrible sexual thing, give up my body? Even if it's a young man and this man say you got to be with him, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, you don't want it. You're straight and you don't want to do it, but you want this so bad. You want that more than your manhood. And that's what Terrence Howard was saying. You got to keep your manhood. You can't give that up. Well, and he said he's never done that. He said he won't kiss a man in a movie. He won't do any of that. He has never done it.
And if you think back when you're young, not that I would ever say yes to anything like that, but there's situations where you get opportunities to toe the line with your integrity, especially when you're young, and that really molds who you are later in life. But if you have that idea that if I just cross the line one time, maybe just to get my foot in the door, then I don't have to do it ever again. But it's not just one time. It's repeatedly just to stay in it. And if not, then you're blackballed and you're out. And then you see the people that are just literally like they're skeletons of themselves when they're no longer there because their soul is gone.
Right. I think so. And I just want to say, guys, for my audience, this is Derek. and what's the name of your channel? It's SOB R U Serious.
That is me.
So you guys, I'm going to leave the links in the description for their channels. But yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, it's got to be soul crushing and just soul crushing. No wonder they end up on drugs. No wonder they end up, wanting to get rid of themselves. No wonder. That's just a lot. That is a lot. And I was saying to MJ that I wanted to be an actress. I went to New York to study acting. I was in plays, and the goal was to go to Hollywood, but I got saved before I got there, and I came back home to Georgia. And later I'm like, maybe that's the best thing that could have happened, because if I wasn't saved and I went out there, there's no telling what I would have done without that anchor, of being saved. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. God just spared me from a lot of trouble. I just telling MJ I wanted to be Halle Berry so bad.
Right.
Well, and MJ and I have gotten to know each other really well, consider him a good friend. And part of that is conversations, right? It's not just surface. Like we've learned more deeply about each other. So just I'm curious, because of where this conversation is going. MJ has a daughter has the talent to be in that industry. How proud and happy are you that she's not going down that path?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. When she decided to stay independent, like that was like music to my ears, because without question, she could have been signed already. And I've even been approached from folks that wanted to really get her out there. And I don't just as a dad, and I'm super overprotective with all my kids. All my daughters have that capability, but for me, I don't trust anybody when it comes to my kids, let alone the industry.
You're talking about acting or singing?
Singing. Because the music industry is just as bad, if not worse. I think I don't know. Hollywood might be a little worse, but the music industry is really bad too.
I don't know. They pretty much, I want to say the singing industry is worse because of P. Diddy.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's that.
I mean, P. Diddy. Oh,
between Diddy and like the recent pictures I saw of Justin Bieber, like in the last week, man.
Yeah, I feel terrible for him.
I just felt horrible. Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't seen him in the last week or so. How is he looking?
Not good.
Not good. He looks drugged out.
Oh.
And he was up on stage singing gospel songs and praising Jesus, and now all of a sudden it's just like, Satan's working.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is a very big antichrist spirit over Hollywood and the music industry. You can see it in the films that they push. We talked about Brokeback Mountain and all the other things. And then the music, the Grammy Awards, these satanic things that look like they're doing on stage. And I don't know if you remember that song, that rapper, he belongs to the alphabet community. His name is Lil Nas X, Nas. Yeah. And that video, it was very satanic, and he has a picture of him with a belly like he's pregnant. It's just over the top crazy.
I never saw that video, but I did hear like he was giving like the devil like a lap dance or something. I never saw the video.
It was all of that. It was all of that.
Yeah, my brother told me about the video, but I never saw it because I'm like, I don't know. But I also heard that kid was just a regular straight kid before he got into the industry.
It could have happened to him because they turned people out.
Yeah, he was turned out because I've seen photos of him and he's out there, man.
And that's because they want that more than their manhood. I'm like Terrence Howard. Don't give up your man card.
No, we keeping our man card.
Please, we need more man.
We ain't playing with that.
We got another enough men wanting to be women around here. We just be
Yeah.
so masculine, going hunting, loving football, chugging a beer down, man. We need a man. That's what I say. All right, there you have it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Don't forget to smash like, comment, share, subscribe, hit all notifications so that you never ever miss a video that I post. You all be blessed, and until next time.